Tom Kosnik, founding partner of the Vices Group, here with Mark Dermott to talk about top selling mistakes. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thanks, Tom. I've been in the staffing business for 40 years. Done everything from being the lead executive from startups to running $500 million businesses. I've been in commercial staffing, healthcare IT. As it applies to sales, our topic today, started as a sales rep back in 1984, some time ago. But I've helped develop sales programs, train on sales programs, and even as I moved into executive roles, I always had a role in helping win business, develop business. And when you do something for 40 years, you do kind of find out some of the common mistakes organizations make when it applies to their sales program, which is what we're going to talk about today.
A lot of sales training programs out there to tell sales reps what to do, but I like the angle, top selling mistakes. I know we have 11 in this video. We're going to cover the first four, and then we're going to do another video for the back five, but launch into it. Tell us, what are the top six mistakes?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the fact that many companies have an incomplete what's called time and territory management plan for their sales team. There's only so many hours in a sales day. And an organization has to develop a program where they're maximizing the time their sales team has in front of a client, and they're working the whole territory. So there's a lot to a sales time and territory management program, but the two big ones are designing your territory and organizing it where you're covering the entire territory and you're not caught up in one part of it. The other part of it is prioritizing clients and having a call program based on the frequency you need to make contact with them, either to win the business, retain the business, develop the business, that's scattered throughout the territory. So the end game is every day that person wakes up, that salesperson, they know what part of the territory they're going to work, who they're going to call on, and they've got the right frequency to maintain and grow the business. So it should help prevent losing business from just not calling on somebody with the right frequency. Somebody comes in your door, your competitor, and takes it away from you. So a lot of people talk on the sales skills. Time and territory management is a big one. The next one I'm going to talk about is companies that don't have a standard sales approach. That's a best practice. So when I say best practice, everybody's using it because it's a proven methodology from start to finish to winning business. You have to design your own sales process. It could be prospecting, getting an appointment, information gathering, proposal presentation, objection handling, and close. But there's multiple steps. You've got to design your sales process, train people on it, track it, and make sure that everybody's following it. If it's truly a best practice, it should help you win more business. I've seen too many companies leave it up to the salesperson and what they want to do, and you got some people doing the right thing and some people that are doing their own thing. So standardize your sales process and make it a best practice. The next one I'm going to jump into is what's commonly known to as the elevator speech. You need to develop a common message that everybody uses to describe to a client on what you want them to know about your organization as you start a relationship. So if you've got a salesperson in New York and a salesperson in LA, and a client says, well, tell me a little bit about your company, they're saying the same thing. This needs to be scripted. It needs to be rehearsed. It needs to come out natural, which means you've got to review it multiple times. But if you do that, you're starting a client off on the right track and letting them know exactly what you want them to know, and not leaving it up to salesperson's discretion on how they want to describe your organization. It's very important. The next one I'm going to talk about, which is really important, is when clients have too much revenue and too few accounts. Especially if you're potentially an owner of a company that might want to get your company ready for sale. If you've got 90% of your revenue coming out of 10% of your clients, or 40% of your revenue out of your top 5 clients, you're at real risk. If you lose one of those clients, your business could drop 20, 30, 40, who knows how much percent. 80-20 is kind of what you hear when you've got 80% of your revenue and 20% of your clients, but it is an ongoing metrics that you need to track. And whenever you've got, I'm not saying don't get big accounts, get all the big accounts you want, but when you're living off of 3 or 4 of them, you've got to make sure you diversify your client base, where if something drops, and that does happen, I mean, look at your top 15 accounts now versus 5 years ago. They do change, revenue changes. So you constantly have to be monitoring who your top accounts are, getting other ones or developing other ones so you're not so account dependent. So have a plan around having too much revenue and too few accounts. So the next two I'm going to talk about are somewhat related. And that is where you've got one of your larger accounts and they're really their only relationship with your company is with that account executive. Now, just like every other position, account positions do turnover. Sales positions do turnover. So you have to develop a strategy where your top accounts know more than just one person with your firm, because if that person goes, you literally are starting over. You have to make sure they know, I would argue, 4 to 5 people within your firm. So if there is turnover, you should still be in pretty good solid ground in maintaining that account, and you're not so dependent on that one person. I've seen it happen time and time again. And the reverse is true. If you've only got one account in your larger account, you're very vulnerable. And a lot of times that's in what's called the technical buyer, where it's the order placer. This person is not a decision maker. If that person goes, and that's that's the only individual that you know, you could literally lose an account that you've worked with for years because they don't know anybody else. They don't have a relationship with anybody else. So your strategy is to, for your larger accounts at least, have 4 or 5 contacts as high up in the organization. Most people have heard by now of who the economic buyer is, who some of this strategic selling or conversation I'm having right now. But you've got to have multiple contacts and larger clients to make sure that if any one of them leaves, you're on solid footing. So they should know at least 4 or 5 people within your firm. You should know 4 or 5 people within their firm. You've created barriers to exit. And it's, anything can still happen, but you're on much better footing if you have any turnover and you can retain those accounts. Those are 5 common mistakes, Tom, I've seen that could potentially save you some really big revenue.
Mark, thanks so much. Mark McDermott on 5 common mistakes. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.